Yeah, I'm Andy Walker, Senior Research Fellow at National Renewable Energy Laboratory. My wife Renee and I bought this house in 2001. It was built in 1978 as part of a solar demonstration program, so they did a really good job with the passive solar features. As Jim said, it's earth burned into the hillside with south-facing exposure. The building is kind of stretched out from east to west to give a lot of south-facing windows. There are some east-facing windows which are okay because usually in the morning here it's cool, even in the summertime. But there's only one west-facing window and it's very small. So most of the sunlight comes in the south-facing windows in the wintertime. There's been mass added. The tile floor is there's about 3/4 inch thick concrete under that, or thin set under that. And the brick wall absorbs a lot of the solar heat. The brick walls run all the way through the house, through 2 stories. You can see some clear story windows up at the top to let daylight and solar heat into the north side of the rooms here. The eaves of the roof form an overhang over the windows. So here in June, you can see there's very little direct sunlight coming in that south-facing window, even though it's open.
Right. If this were wintertime, the floor would be awash with direct sunlight.
That's right.
Right. So the passive, if you're going to have all this thermal mass like the brick walls, it's really important to have the passive solar design so that you don't get the sun heating them up in the summer.
Right. We'll see the same thing downstairs where the overhang shade the south-facing windows.
Now, I understand you're heated with a hot water boiler.
Yeah, so there's baseboard distribution throughout the whole house. They made the baseboards a lot bigger than they needed to be. They basically wrapped the whole perimeter of the house. That provides a lot of surface area, allows the baseboards to operate at a lower efficiency, and allows the condensing boiler to operate at a higher efficiency.
And how is the house cooled?
We have a kind of what you might call a high-performance evaporative cooler.
What makes it high performance? I see you also have a whole house fan.
It's got, instead of just one layer of Excelsior for the evaporative media, it has 2 thicknesses of Muncher's packing, it's called. And it was high enough efficiency and high enough performance that the utility gave us a rebate for it.
Oh, really? And what brand is it?
Master Cool.
Oh, okay. Now, I also noticed that on the north side of the house, you have an airlock. You've got a foyer there with a door at each end. So that's a good solar feature too, isn't it?
That's one of the improvements that we made to the 1978 design, is that door with glass in it used to be the front door.
Oh, so you created the airlock.
So we created that entry vestibule. Otherwise, when you open that door, the wind would blow straight into the house.
Yeah. Okay, so let's go look at the next feature, the solar thermal.
Okay. If you look up on the roof here, Jim, you can see the evacuated tube solar collector. It's got 30 evacuated tubes, but if you look at the right-hand side, one of them's missing.
Okay.
And they brought it down here so you could get a closer look at it.
Yeah.
The air's been evacuated out of the tube so the sunlight can shine in, but the heat can't get out. Then it goes to this little condenser bulb. And that condenser bulb is clamped into a manifold that runs across the top of the 30 tubes. The cold water comes in the right-hand side. The hot water goes out the left-hand side. And if you see that black wire sticking out of the left-hand side, that is the temperature sensor that tells the pump when to turn on and off.
I see. Okay, and you can simply remove one of the tubes and not take the system down.
That's one of the nice things about these. If one tube gets broken by hail, the other 29 would continue to work.
Now, in these 20-some years, have you had any hail breakage?
We have had hail. We haven't had any breakage.
No breakage, so these are pretty impervious to hail. And solar panels, you have solar photovoltaic, which we'll see later. That's pretty impervious too. Any damage to it from hail?
No hail damage to the PV either. The sunroom was part of the original 1978 construction, and it was a really clever design. Here in the summertime, in June, the overhang of the cantilevered floor up above is pretty much shading the windows.
Yeah, right. It's midday and there's almost no direct sun coming in to heat up this room. In some sunrooms, if they don't have that overhang, would be extremely hot right now.
Yeah. And in the wintertime, the sun will come all the way on this floor.
All the way to the end here.
Yep. And they left gaps between these planks for air to go through. And there's a 4 foot deep rock bin underneath the floor.
Wow.
So what would happen is the sun would come in and heat up the floor, and then a fan would draw the air through the floor, through the 4 foot of rock, and store that heat during the day.
Oh, so where's the fan? Down
The
below?
The fan hole is right underneath this plant.
Oh, okay, got it. You don't need to take it away. Good.
And,
So in the winter, that would not be covered with a plant.
right. And then the fan, when the fan turned off, then that heat could just naturally rise
Okay.
up. It keeps that heat from overheating the space during the day. It puts it into the rock. So in the wintertime, we would keep these sliding glass doors closed during the day. It would get piping hot in here, which is, in the wintertime, it's getting dark already. We can open up these doors and you can feel that heat pour into the house.
Yeah, right. Okay, let's go look at the other sunroom.
So we added this sun space to it. It's also passive solar with the south-facing windows. In these lower openings, we put these phase change panels. So these are filled with a eutectic salt, which stores energy by a change of phase rather than a change of temperature.
Phase means from solid to liquid.
Yeah. These help keep the sun space from overheating by collecting heat during the day and releasing it into the room at night. The direct beam comes through the windows comes on this cement floor, concrete floor, and we got the highest level of fly ash that they would put into it. Fly ash is recycled material that can be used in cement and concrete.
Here we are outside the house now. The glare that you see is from those solar thermal tubes that we were talking about earlier. But here we can get a better view of the solar photovoltaic that's on top of the house. And also, by the way, the fact that it is into the earth on the north side, which is a good feature for reducing the cooling load in the summer and heating load in the winter, wouldn't you say?
Deliberately left these trees on the west side.
Yeah.
So right now, this time of year, the west side of the house would benefit from some shade. And south-facing roofs are pretty much full of solar systems. On the far right-hand side is the solar water heating evacuated tubes. And then in the middle, there's 9 solar panels that we installed in 2007. Me and my 12-year-old son installed those. They're 300 watts each, so that's 2.7 kW. And we were able to demonstrate on several months net zero electricity, but my wife wanted it to be more typically net zero, so my wife, Renee, hired Namaste Solar to...
Oh, she didn't get on the roof and do it herself.
No. So she hired Namaste to install that additional 1.1 kW, which you can see. And that one's kind of tucked in there, so it gets some shade from that west tree, but at least it's open at noon.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Andy. It's been great looking at your house, and thanks for explaining its many features to us.
Thank you, Jim.